Okay, we are recording. All right, well, thank you. Welcome everybody to the first digital badges for your makerspace webinar of Q4 2018. Excited to have you here and excited to have this conversation. This conversation really stemmed, or this webinar today really stemmed from conversations we've been having with you all. And had some great conversations with Kyle and Tom over the past few months, and was just really blown away by the work that they've been doing and their thinking and strategy, and just knew, like, when I was listening to this and taking notes, that I just wanted to share it with everybody. And so that's really what today is all about, an opportunity and a platform to give some of the leaders a voice and share what they're doing. So we'll go on here to the next slide. So that's our agenda for today, is really focused on Kyle and Tom and their story and their strategy. Before we jump into that, though, we sent out a survey a few weeks ago, and I just want to go over some of the highlights from that survey. So, so we sent out a survey a few weeks ago, and really, this is the goal of the presentation today, which I talked about, is to have a dialogue and discussion and share the program strategies and tactics being implemented today, some of the challenges that you're facing, and discuss some of the many paths forward that we're seeing happening right now. And then goal number 2 is to learn more about you, and this has especially happened in the Q&A section. So we can learn how we can better assist and provide resources for you. So, okay, jumping back to the survey. We sent it out to all 24 colleges. We had 7 responses, and 6 out of those 7, was just kind of one of the key things, already have or near-term plans to issue digital badges. So it seems like of the 24 colleges, right now, it looks like 6 of them are actively going to be doing some sort of digital badge activity in the near future. So I'm just going to kind of just run through this pretty briefly, and then I'm also going to summarize this all in a blog post. So I don't want to dive into it too much. Really, this is about Tom and Kyle. But I do want to just highlight a couple of the questions that we had here, just so you have in the back of your head. Select the primary methods of structuring learning, how it's happening. Workshops organized by makerspace staff was number 1, and then embedded informal discipline course, had 3 counts. Those 2, and then through the badging platform as well. These are our top ways that the learning is happening in the makerspaces. And then question here was about which technologies do you already have curriculum for developed? And you can see, of the 7 respondents, pretty much you guys got nailed down laser cutter and 3D printers. And about half of you are already onto the CNC vinyl cutter. Surprisingly, a low number on the shop safety, which is interesting. That might be something we want to focus on, sharing a general shop safety protocol. And then, as expected, a lot of these, there's a lot of different ways you can do with education in makerspaces, and so these is kind of the long tail here. This question here, describe any support you need. This is really one of the key questions. We're like, how can we help you? And all of these answers pretty much say we've got everything needed, except for one of them here. Our technicians deem online training inadequate. This is specifically for their 3D printing. So it looks like we can provide some resources and curriculum around the 3D printing side of things, but and then money for salaries. And that actually, I think, will be potentially covered a bit today, at least some strategies that I know that Tom and Kyle for funding in their makerspaces and how they're going about that is a big part of today's conversation. And then this is a good question here. This is where I got the 6 out of 7 responses. If you look at these results here, 2 of them plan to issue, 2 of them are already issuing, and then these ones here are planning or already issuing here. And have you already selected a digital badge platform? Some custom Penn State, we'll learn from Kyle, and then Acclaim, Badger and Canvas. This one, Credly and Acclaim, Badger. So there's some interesting things going on there. Everybody here is highly interested in it. And anything else you'd like to share with us, which we'll just, opportunities are severely limited by our salary, I think is one of the key things here that will be addressed to a degree in this conversation. So I'm going to jump back, but we can talk more about those survey results in the Q&A session. Let me see here. Share screen. Okay. I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to cover in the Q&A in that introductory session there. So what are we at? We're at 10:08. We're at 12:15. Okay. So our first featured speaker for the day is Kyle with Foothill College. And Kyle, you can go ahead and start unmuting yourself now. How you doing?
Good, and thank you for providing us with this opportunity. I know that having some of these resources will be helpful for some people who are really looking at doing digital badges or some kind of micro-credentialing for folks in their space. I can just kind of go through what we're doing with badging and micro-credentialing for folks in our space. And I don't know if our situation is a little bit different than most, but one of the things that we kind of came across, because we're in the Bay Area and right as we opened, a bunch of the tech shops closed. And so we had a lot of people coming in saying, well, I already know how to do that. I don't need to be trained again. I already know how to do that. I don't need to be trained again. And we said, no, because we're in this space, we need to make sure everybody kind of goes through our training so that we have documentation of it. But we wanted to set up a process by which if somebody did have the skills and training, they could advance through it at a much more quicker pace than somebody who was new to it. And so that's how we kind of looked at badging. And I don't know if we can get over to the next slide. So that was kind of the 3 things that we looked at as to why we wanted the process to document the training, because we felt like, we kind of put on the litigator hat there a little bit, so that if somebody were to become hurt in a makerspace, in a court, somebody's going to say, well, how are these people trained? How are they, trained to use the tools in the makerspace? And we wanted to make sure that we could document that process, number 1. And number 2, be able to pull out from some kind of digital format what these people actually did in order to get trained. So what kind of content they created. The second piece I kind of already had mentioned, which is we wanted to have that process that allowed makers to move at their own pace, so that they had some of the skills, they could get through some of the digital pieces much more quickly. But all of our badges, which I'll mention again later, all have a physical person checkoff in them. So we don't let anybody use anything without one of our staff members checking them off that they've done something. And then the third part was we wanted something that was easy for us to manage and to determine who's been trained on each piece of equipment. So that record keeping piece. So we had a database that we could look at pretty quickly and be able to know who's been trained in what. So that's the 3 things. And then the next slide, we kind of went through this idea where we wanted that piece that was asynchronous or people did on their own. We wanted to make sure that there was something that we could look at. We do have some multiple choice kind of quizzes that go along with some of the content, but we feel like that's really low level kind of stuff and really doesn't capture. Somebody can take a multiple choice test multiple times and kind of go through and figure out what the answers are, but not really learn the content. So what we really looked at was we wanted to do more some kind of personal demonstration without the staff present. So if they were, like our laser cutter badge, one of the things that they have to do is they have to show that they know how to use digital calipers. And so there's a video that they watch on how to use digital calipers. And then we ask them to measure 2 different pieces of material using digital calipers and then take a picture of them doing that and then upload those 2 images to that badge step so that we can demonstrate that demonstrates that they know how to use calipers to measure material. There's another piece in our laser cutter badge where they actually have to set up a job in Illustrator and not print from it, and then take a screenshot of that to demonstrate that they know how to get to the place where they have an image or an Illustrator file that's ready to cut. And then the third part is that there's always a checkoff list that we get to with everybody as they go on to each machine that, can you do these 3 things? We also, on the laser cutter, we ask them, can you set up the job? On the 3D printer, can you load filament? Can you balance the build plate? Can you do certain things that we have somebody from our staff watch them do? And that's all kind of a checklist kind of thing that they go through after that. And there's some instruction that we do there as well, but we try to do a lot of the informational piece on the online platform. And then the next slide we get into we decided to, as we launched the makerspace, to have 6 different making areas that you can see there. The goal was not to silo things, but to provide connections for people to kind of cross over, because we had a lot of people who came in specifically for, I want to use a laser cutter, or I want to use a 3D printer, and really didn't see the connection to other things in the makerspace. And so by having the making areas, we can kind of say, well, you learned this skill, let's say in a 3D printer, and now you can come over to the crafting area and learn how to use the vinyl cutter, paper cutter, and do some of those same things, and do kind of like cardboard or paper cutouts that do some of the same things that you can do on the laser cutter, and expand their knowledge base that way. So that's why we put in the making area. So that a lot of them have crossovers in them, and by design, so we can kind of get people to broaden what they do instead of just staying in, I'm going to use a laser cutter, I'm going to use a 3D printer, I'm going to use the small scale CNC, and that's all I'm going to do. So we went from there. And then the last piece, we kind of talked about the different badge levels. So the scout level was basic machine use and safety. You can use the machine, you can use it independently, but it's kind of lower level kinds of things. We do ask people after they get the scout badge to kind of demonstrate that they have some proficiency. And so there's usually 3 to 5 different kinds of basic, like a craft or a piece that they could make. So like for our 3D printer, there's a keychain that we kind of give them instructions on how to build. It's really short and quick. It's flat, so it doesn't take long to print. But we just want to see, can you follow instructions or a recipe from A to Z, get something done and get a result, and do that independently? And then the last piece is the trailblazer, which is, can you do something from scratch, designing it all on your own, and documenting that process? And so the last 4 pieces of that are those 4 areas. So those trailblazer badges, there's no real content being done, but it's people demonstrating that they can be completely independent. So what's your inspiration? Perspiration is that process that you use, the actual building of something. The iteration is, what did you do when you had troubles? How did you get around them? And then documenting the whole process. We're pretty big proponents of using cell phones and documenting what they're doing via cell phones, even though a lot of the stuff that we see, like I know Make has a really good kind of tutorial on how to document your projects and how to get the lighting and how to get the camera set up right. And we just felt like it was just so much easier just to use their cell phones to capture those images kind of in the moment and then have all of those move over. The tool that we use a lot to do that, the documentation using cell phones, is a tool using Google Keep. And the reason we use Google Keep is for a couple of reasons. Number one is that you can kind of snap a bunch of pictures really quickly and kind of keep them together. The other thing with Google Keep is that you can take an image and then draw on top of it saying, I did this in this step, and really kind of point out and call out the different parts of the project. And then when you have things in Google Keep, if someone opens up a Google Doc or opens up a Google Slides presentation, you can open up a side mirror and all of those things that you've done in Keep are right there. You could just drag them into a slides presentation and then have everything ready to present and then send it to somebody else. So it created a very seamless workflow for all of those things for us to move forward. So that's the process that we've been using with folks. I think that's the last slide, but that's kind of what what we've done with our process and kind of found a pathway for people to use.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight that workflow and that process and the way that you've structured it using technology to make it self-paced and then to allow the assessment to happen quite efficiently using the online platform. And all of the curriculum being stored in the online platform is really what stood out as something that's just above and beyond what I've seen. Is it possible, I know this is kind of on the fly, for you to just do a quick demo of your screen of what that platform looks like?
Yeah, I can do that really quickly.
Just a quick overview, just so they see. Let me see. I think I have to make you a co-host.
Yeah.
Or can you just hit this share screen button?
Yeah, I clicked my share screen button, so I have my desktop. See if I can go. Can you guys see that screen there?
Not yet. I don't think they can. Let me see. New share. This is.
Can you guys see that at all?
What is?
No.
Let me see. What? I guess I can't tell. What they might. I think they could see your desktop. No, wait. Is that?
Can you see me scrolling on that screen right now?
No, they can't. So let me see. I might have to unshare my screen. And then, sorry, technical difficulties. We should have practiced this.
Yeah.
So you are presenter now. So can you hit the share screen button at the top of the new share?
Let me pop this out. That's it. Okay, and I hit the share. That's your desktop. I want to show my, there it is. Okay, can you see that now?
Villain, or can you guys give me a thumbs up or down, because I'm not. Yes, okay, Villain sees it. All right.
Okay, so this is the badging platform that we've been able to license from Penn State. And so it has a bunch of different pieces to it, but there's a dashboard, and then you can explore, and there's groups, and then because I'm an administrator, I can kind of see the reports of who's developed what or who's gone through what, and then it actually, when somebody submits something, there's a little evaluation. It sends me a note to evaluate, and then I can invite people to the platform. So there's a bunch of different things that are there. But so this is a badge that I was actually working on to develop. But let me get into. So somebody talked about the basic safety badge. So this is the basic safety badge that we have. And it kind of goes through the process that I mentioned to all of you in the beginning, that we wanted to document what was going on, allow makers to go through a little quickly. So they go through that. And then right here, you kind of see, and I have to move. So you'll see the different pieces in this badge. It talks about each step. So the first part teaches them about the badging system, but then the next one is basic safety. So there's an image here, and then I created these in ThingLink. And so you'll see that as you roll over them, different pieces of it come up, and it talks about wearing goggles. If you don't have your own, we have them. Always make sure you use a vise. If you have long hair, tie it back. This one talks about avoid using the table saw, but then I put a link here to that we bought a saw stop, and so how a saw stop works. Not to cut any bare wires, but this is something I can embed any kind of media into this system. It's a little cumbersome to embed some of that media, and we're kind of playing around with it. So we're rebuilding a bunch of our badges right now to kind of take advantage of some things that they've allowed us to do. But it kind of says tasks or read through the rules. So we have all the rules here. And then at the bottom is the evidence. In order to successfully complete this step, you must score 100% on the quiz. So it has a quizzing system built into it. And you have to score 100% on the quiz to move forward. Now, trying to think. This one also talks about, so you'll see this one is a little bit different where it talks about maker mindset. And then it has a series of 4 videos. So it's a YouTube playlist that we can put in here. And it has a couple of videos, and it says read through the list. And so it has another quiz there. So these are really basic. When I get over to, let me see if I can pull up the cutter badge. Oh, this is the draft version of it. Let me go see if I can get the one that's published. So here's the basic laser cutter badge. And you'll see it says how to safely use a laser cutter. But here's the one that I mentioned actually earlier, which is, so it goes through a bunch of different parts of our laser cutter and our library. And then it has, here's the little video on digital calipers. And it asks them to go through the materials library at the ULS website. But then it actually has an article, and then it has a Google Doc link. And so the way we've set this up is that when you click on this link, it actually is a forced copy of a Google Doc. And then it creates the doc for them, and then they just put the images into that document. And then at the evidence, it just says, put the link to your document right here and submit it. So we actually get a copy of their Google Doc. They keep their copy, but we see it as well. So we can see what they've done.
So I think that's totally cool, and it's very transparent, and there's a repository of all of the content, all the curriculum there.
Yeah.
And one thing is, Kyle's using a proprietary platform licensed through Penn State, but digging through Canvas, it's quite similar. And
yeah, you could do the same thing in Canvas, I don't think, with much. You would just have to have a way to, you would have to award the badge through a different system, because Canvas badges has kind of gone kaput.
But so they have an integration with Badger that I've been playing with.
Okay.
So both with Badger and Credly integrate with Canvas. So if you wanted to tie the curriculum and the assessment from Canvas, you could do it right through there. Yeah.
Okay. So I heard Badger had one, but I didn't know that Credly. I've used Credly in the past for other things, and like that platform as well, because it's fairly simple and it's free.
Right. Okay, cool. Okay. Well, thank you, Kyle. All right, we're going to move on here to Tom, and then we're going to do the Q&A at the end. So, Tom, did you have anything? I need to unmute you. Let me see here, unless you guys unmute yourselves. Yeah, all right, there you go. Yep, I can hear you.
Where'd you get that picture? That's from my old website.
I was looking. No, this is what's on your, the Sac City College website. I was looking all over for a photo of you online. This one, there were some other ones I could have pulled up that I didn't feel comfortable with. Yeah, Tom, why don't you go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about your background and strategy here with the Sac City Makerspace? you guys are doing.
Yeah, great. I'm here with Tristan Lofting. Tristan's one of my key students, and primarily we're tasking Tristan to basically be the structural developer of the makerspace badges. And we've been working on the content and the topics. And we're like literally within a week of pulling the trigger on a few badges. And what has been the process at Sacramento City College has been addressing the badging system as a holistic effort by the entire campus. And so that slowed us down a little because we were ready to start issuing badges similar to Kyle based on skills and competencies in the makerspace, whether it be a machine, design thinking, safety. We've sort of got those already developed, and they're all based on demonstration and project outcomes, and all in person. Not really many quizzes per se. It's based on certain high-level instructional assistants reviewing the scope of what they're doing and then signing them off for that specific badge based on the competencies we've detailed. Our school is very structured when it comes to issuing anything with the school's name on it. And our PIO, our public information officer, and the school administration wanted us to come up with an integrated system that badging would be not just makerspace, but that it could be based on existing curriculum throughout the campus, in addition to other types of activities for faculty and staff badging. So that would be like professional development badges that are offered by our Faculty and Staff Resource Center, and looking through existing curriculum throughout the entire campus and having the ability to pull badges out of that curriculum and as a different way to demonstrate skills versus a certificate or a degree. And so that then included many people from campus, many stakeholders. And so we had many meetings, and we were always with the intention of never involving curriculum committee. Because as you know, in the college environment, curriculum committees are just a long, arduous process. So I think we've successfully decided that any badging that is developed across campus will never ever conflict with any curriculum or act as new curriculum, because we were worried about the accreditation process. I'm going to actually share a Dropbox with you guys of all of our files. So I put that in the chat. And so that's something you can look at later. But in that we have notes and content, and what we're doing is some of that's some of your stuff too, but it's sort of the area that we have an ad hoc committee on campus that involves, we've been prototyping our design because the school wanted a very, very integrated design that would be used throughout the campus. In fact, if you want to open up one of those, like number 5 or 6, you can kind of see where we're headed. So then, and maybe open up the other one with the one that says open edge. Yeah, the far right one. There you go.
Number 6.
Yeah.
That's the one.
So, and scroll down a little if you can, Eric. Yeah, so like here's a good example of the school's very concerned about our style guide, because they want it to be, whether it's a makerspace badge or whether it's anything on campus, it needs to be branded by our style guide. And so this is a good example of OER, which is Open Educational Resources, which is an initiative to provide free learning materials to all students. So faculty is right now going through this training where that they get certified in this. And so we've been working with our Learning Resource Center people to develop the badge. And we're using this as our template for the new school badge design. where we have an icon, we use the school colors, and we use the school logo. And then we're going to create templates where faculty and staff can interchange and develop badges. They've chosen the makerspace to be the final stop to approve the look of the badge. And so, and one of the documents that's in that folder, it's called Draft Digital Badging Proposal. You'll probably see it. It's a Word doc. Go up a little. There it is right there. Draft it, yeah. This is kind of what we were working on. And so we decided that it would be a small group that would review all badges coming in. Now we use Canvas as our learning management system, and we are signed up with Badger. And so we're going to have a committee of 3 people that will review badge proposals. The school is concerned that we will become dilute and make badges for like how to make coffee, although that's actually not a bad badge. So, but we wanted to have a little gravitas so that we don't have 100,000 badges out there. So we've decided that if it has the name Sacramento City College on it, it needs to go through a process of 3 people that will review it. And then one person who holds the key to Badger will be the technician that uploads and creates the actual badge. And so we wanted to have this system, and it's fellow colleagues. It's not administration. It's going to be faculty and staff that will be just kind of just a professional review. Yes. That we don't get some silly badge out there. Faculty, by all means, can create any badge they want, but if it has the school logo on it and it has the look that we've created, it needs to, because the school is quite convinced that this is going to take off and that this is a new way to show pedagogical achievement. And so while the makerspace is sort of pioneering it, we know that other parts of the campus are going to start adopting this in lieu of certificates. And so that's where we're at. And Tristan, I'm taking over the conversation, so go ahead. Go ahead.
Or in addition to.
Right. So that's where we're at right now. And we finally just had a meeting yesterday with the stakeholders. There's 6 of us, 6 or 7 of us. And we've decided we're ready to pull the trigger now and start getting some badges up. And if they don't look right or they don't feel right, we'll pull them down. But we're going to start to do it probably in the next week. Yeah. And we're probably going to be manifesting we have a design thinking badge we've been running through.
Okay.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Okay, so I had already been working on the write-ups for the badging, and because we're taking this so seriously now, some of our makerspace badging is going to be consolidated from more badges to less badges, but they're going to be much more
like rigorous. Yeah, we've decided to keep all our badges kind of on a high level. They could equate to a course, but they should at least be 18 hours of instruction or lab time. Was it 18?
Yeah.
Yeah, 18 hours.
A full semester.
One unit of curriculum is 18 units. I mean 18 units. 18 hours.
18 hours.
And that can be a combination of lecture and lab, so that a badge equivalency. Now it doesn't have to be associated with the course, but it can be. So we developed, in addition to our badging, 14 new courses that are going to be going through the Sacramento curriculum process that will be under the MAKR designator, much like Folsom does. And there are many 1-unit classes like Woodmaker, I'm blanking, laser cutting, 3D printing, all these kind of fun 1-unit classes. Then right now we're offering a lot of workshops and a lot of trainings, but we're going to be morphing them into like 1-unit lab classes with badges, so that in one lab class you could get your shop safety and your design thinking done. And then so you would come out of that with not only a 1-unit, but then you could also come out of it with a badge or 2. And so we have probably 10 solid badges, and we have about 12 to 14 courses that we're now in the process of rolling out. at our school, it takes up to a year to launch a course. They're going to let us experimentally offer 3 of them starting in January. But by fall of next year, we probably will offer 8 maker courses and then start building these badges. And we are not even sure if we're going to offer certificates at all. We may just offer badges and courses. We don't think we're going to offer a degree ever, or a program or a AS or anything. We think we're going to just, the mission of our makerspace is that all courses are gateways to specialize in other disciplines. So you would take a no prereq maker class and get your badges and then scaffold up into a program such as computer science or engineering or mechanical this or that. And then they can scaffold and build higher level badges. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah, no, makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at.
There's a question in the chat box here. Are those credit or non-credit? And if non-credit, are they enhanced CDCP courses?
These are credit courses and 4-grade courses.
Yes.
We are working on them eventually. See, there's a reason at our school that if they're 4 credit, this is my understanding, is that if they're 4 credit and they are grade courses, they're easier to matriculate into transfer units for the CSUs and the UCs, and which is a very big thing for students that are going on to a 4-year school. And they're also easier for students to get those courses paid for with financial aid.
Yes.
And most of our students are on financial aid, and they get a lot of their tuition waived. And so certain courses you can create, but the students would have to pay cash for them, even if they're under financial aid. So, and I'm not completely, this is all a new area for me. I always thought it didn't matter. But so these are the little elements that we're trying to do so that they can then build these components into their GE undergrad or lower division.
Do you really, you covered exactly the highlights that I was hoping to pull out of you. So, just kind of reiterate, you guys are submitting a 12 to 14 1-unit classes with a new maker symbol as how they're associated. Yeah.
I'll add to that Dropbox. I think, in fact, can I just add to that Dropbox right now? Oh. Yeah. Well, maybe add to it. I have a list of those classes that we are developing right now. A sampling of them. There's a bunch more that are still draft that you can't see. And they are the ones that we're launching right now. We kind of went crazy on our curriculum. I'm going to try to find those while I'm talking. Do you want to talk for a second, Tristan, about what we're doing? Like maybe the mechanics?
We can also open up, we're at 12:45 right now. And so I'll open up to Q&A from the guests.
I'm just going to look while he's... Okay. Anybody... I know I have a screen grab of these.
Yeah. Anybody have a question for either Kyle or Tom?
Oh, here we go. So I'll drop into the Dropbox.
If you do have a question, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself. I think you have the ability to unmute yourself.
I'd be interested to know from any of the others how they're going with their regular curriculum development. If they're launching any new curriculum that is maker-specific curriculum.
So I just put in the chat, at Foothill, we've already written 10 new courses.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we did that as we were applying for the grant. And so we got them passed. So those are all live now, because it's just like you, it takes a year for everything to go through. So we have 10 new courses that just became active for us July 1.
Hey, Kyle, are you under a new designator, or are they in a specific division or what?
Yeah. So what's different about us is that the center where I work is and we're the only ones in the state that do this, but most of what we do is professional learning programs for teachers.
Right.
And so our TOPS code is 0860.
Okay.
And that's educational technology or instructional technology.
Got it.
Okay, so our actual department designation is LINC, which stands for Learning in New Media Classrooms.
Okay.
Which really fits in really nicely with all the makerspace stuff.
So is this principally for educators to hone their skills in advance?
Right. So for educators, but we also do a lot with the actual college students and a lot with K-12 students. We did probably 200 students through camps this summer coming through our makerspace. So, and some offsite things as well. We also have an 18-unit certificate that is based on some of those 10 courses that we put through, that we ran 44 people through the first 10 units of that certificate this summer.
Do you offer some type of credentialing or degree?
Yeah, we have actually a statewide certificate that has gone through Foothill, been approved by CCC, which is our regional group, and now is at the state. And we're just waiting for the state to send it back saying it's approved.
Wow. Is there, can I poach some of your classes?
Absolutely.
Can you just date it down?
I gave them all. I posted a bunch of them to Solomon and Deborah when I just did this last regional report.
Okay.
The other thing that we did is that we're getting a big push from the administration here, which is how are you going to make the space viable once the grant runs out? And how are you going to make sure that it's staffed? And so we like the fact of having courses, but we're not sure if we can keep the courses full all day long, because all of our courses are 2-unit courses there, and we're on the quarter system too, which is different than everybody else.
Oh, wow. That's very unusual.
Yeah. But all of the 10 courses that I mentioned are all 2-unit courses. And when we put them through, we kind of said they're snacker courses, which is get somebody interested, and then just like you had mentioned, Tom, which is they do a little bit of this and then maybe they go into engineering, and they do a little of this and then maybe they go into a coding kind of thing.
Right.
So I'm moving forward with that. The 3 courses that we just put through the middle of last school year that are now have been approved by the Foothill Curriculum Council are 3 non-credit courses. One is more just to help people learn how to use computers, but the other 2 are the basic maker skill courses. Mm-hmm. And so we would use the badges that we have as curriculum for that. And so people could come in, and once they went through those badges, we would be able to collect apportionment for those people going through those badges, and then in turn staff our space that way.
We're working on the same, we're obviously all in the same mode of how do we sustain this. And we just met with the school president and vice president last week, because our space is just packed, but we're not quantifying that at any point yet, because our courses aren't live. Yeah. And so it looks like it's crazy and crowded, and we're doing all these workshops all the time, and learn the laser cutter or this and that. Right. So the president last week goes, you guys we need to start getting apportionment for this. And so that's why we decided to come up with all these fun 1-unit classes, because we're not sure if it's going to pull back the energy or not, because they should be real easy, and they're not going to be structured so much that they maybe just walk in, walk out, and just work in the space, get training. But we needed to start demonstrating enrollment.
Yeah.
And I worked with our vice president of workforce development, Gabriel Meehan, and we developed a strong workforce plan for the next 3 years, starting on June 1st. Yes. Yeah. 2019, and I actually started a year ago, and they already approved, even for this year, $350,000.
Oh, that's great. That's phenomenal.
And so, and I don't even need that money per se, because that's what they're giving us already. But we have this backup of $350,000 from Strong Workforce Program for this year, next year, and the year after, right around 400,000 a year that's been put into the system. And Los Rios gets a huge chunk because we have 4 schools. And so it's all about just divvying it up.
Yeah.
And, but you know what they've already done is they're already trying to take that money and they want to hire a new CTE dean and this and that. So now I'm having to deal with that kind of a thing.
So we're in the opposite situation at Foothill. So Foothill De Anza, they've just announced it has to go through about 25 million in budget cuts over the next 3 years.
Why?
Because of enrollment, and all of the other districts around us are they're all basic aid districts, and we're not. And so Foothill's going to get hit significantly, but De Anza is going to get hit even more significantly.
Yeah. Our school's also been suffering a very consistent decline in enrollment. It's a steady slope of 2 or 3% every year since 2008. We once had 95,000 students in the 4 schools. We're down to 60-something thousand enrolled students at any given semester. Yeah.
Okay. I've been a student part-time for a number of years now, and there is some people believe that the classes are impacted because at one point before 2008 they were for several years, about 5 years. And since then, people still believe the classes are impacted. So there's this belief going around the area that all the classes in Los Rios district are impacted when we're actually having low enrollment.
Yeah, the school keeps canceling tons of classes.
Yeah.
So I talked to the vice president because I'm developing all these new courses. And I said, how am I going to staff these courses? And they said, there's no problem because we are eliminating courses in other areas. So actually, it might be a benefit for us because we're developing hopefully more interesting, relevant course topics. So they said, we will give you the funding to pay for faculty.
Wow.
They will give us the FTE. Because
that's completely different from us. We don't have a full-time faculty member in our department. So we do it all with adjuncts.
And that's been a question here too, is I'm on a 2-year sabbatical release to do this, and I'm full-time, but they don't want to create a new full-time faculty position for this because they're worried that strong workforce money could run out.
Yeah.
So they want it to be a faculty release, an FTE release, so that the faculty would apply in lieu of their regular teaching to do this for a year or, and then trade it off and off, which is fine. But they don't want to create a position because then if the funding rate ran out, what do you do with the faculty member? Make him a janitor or whatever, right? So
so we're just trying to be able to show. The other thing that I was going to mention is that we've already installed Czars in our makerspace as a sign-in, sign-out tool. So it's not getting, we don't have 100% adoption because we still have people signing in and out using the paper sign-in, sign-out sheets. But over time, we're going to get to 100% compliance with that. And even with our community members, get them, because we just assign them what is called an SG or Czars guest number. Yeah. So that we can now capture the funding or the people walking in and using the space, and then be able to show that to the administration that these are the people using the space. And we can document the time that they come in to use the space. So in turn, we can then use that to validate our need for staffing and to run our non-credit courses and be able to fund people in the space.
We do that currently also. We use OnTrack. And students it also validates that they're currently enrolled. Somewhere on campus. They don't necessarily right now need to be in we don't have any courses, but the rule at the school is that they must be a currently enrolled student to be using the makerspace. That's a legal thing for liability because they're covered under our blanket. But we need to enforce that. All the labs on campus use that same system, so then you can track your usage, and they're always asking for that data. So
So, I mean, yeah, we were able to, that's kind of what we're using to get it. We're hoping to get to, 100% compliance with it so we can really show some more valuable data back to administration. But that's what we're doing to try to make that all work, because that's the question we get posed, when the grant runs out, how are you going to fund?
Right. Good. Well, thank you. That's really great. And I guess I'll hit up Salomon to find out about your courses.
Yeah. So I mean, if you send me a note, I can send them to you. I can send you links to them in Google Docs.
Sounds great. Thanks, Kyle.
Google Docs, and yeah, so you get the full CORs.
I'll put mine all in a Google Doc too. I'll share them to all you guys.
Thank you.
I'm glad you guys had that conversation live recorded in front of, because it's important stuff. I mean, it's really cool what you guys are doing, both of you. I guess we have time for another question. We're about at the end here, but any other questions before we sign off?
I did want to, Lelaine asked a question about badges. And so our maker certificate that's right now at the state will be fully transcriptable.
Excellent. Very good.
So that's one of the reasons we did it. And it's part of the new, that was the other thing we were able to show administration. That's part of the new funding formula, is how many certificates that you're awarding. And so we wanted to make sure that we had something we could show that would validate that to the college. And if we get, I would imagine we'll probably get, I would say in the high 30s, between 35 and 40 people that will complete the what we're calling the makerspace coordinator certificate by the end of March. So by the end of the winter quarter, because we have 40 that have already completed 10 of the 18, and they'll take 4 in the fall and 4 in the winter.
Is this something that we could list with EDD through CalJobs, and that spiders out through Monster and Indeed and all of those things that we do with their LinkedIn pages?
Potentially.
For employers?
Yeah, potentially. I think that there's a big use for that, because the certificate's written more for people who would work in a K-12 school or work in a library but it's also for somebody who may want to work in a fabrication facility as well. So there's not really any quote unquote hard education pieces in it, but there is a lot of design thinking in it. And there is one, I believe there is one instructional, it's Introduction to Instructional Design. So there is one 3-unit instructional design course in it. All the rest are more, it's the courses that I were mentioning. So it's the design thinking courses, the courses on using the small microcontrollers, the courses in fabrication are the pieces in that certificate.
And those are the things that our employers are most interested in. They want skill sets, not necessarily a huge education. They want to know that they've been badged out in these individual skill sets, so they can combine those and say, yes, this is my best candidate.
Yeah, and so that's why we're doing it. And then we're a little different than Tom insofar as the badges are concerned. We have the multiple layers of badges, but we felt like the badges are more, not that 18-hour, but more in the 3 to 4 hour max kind of thing, because we didn't want them to become a barrier for people using the space. And we wanted people to feel like they had a sense of accomplishment after only being in the space for a short amount of time. And it would become motivational for them to earn additional badges if they could kind of go through them a little bit more quickly. And especially when we had the push, right as we opened, when the tech shop closed, a lot of these people saying, well, I know how to use a laser cutter. You should just, grandfather me in. I said, no, I'm not going to do that, because I want to make sure that you guys are checked out on our equipment.
Have many of them become instructors for you now?
Actually not. So there are some other kind of, there's a nonprofit makerspace that's kind of made up of tech shop orphans that's opening in Sunnyvale in a couple of months. One of the tech shops has reopened in San Jose, and another one's reopened in San Francisco. But that's about it. But the big piece that we're seeing is a lot of the K-12 schools are building makerspaces now in our area. We see a lot of that going on. We've had I actually have a meeting this afternoon with a district, fairly large district near us that they have 25 schools. It's a K-8 district. They have 25 schools, 5 of which are middle schools. And they're looking to have a makerspace at each one of the 5 middle schools and have a maker cart at each one of the other 20 elementaries.
Wow. Did many of them receive donated equipment from the makerspaces that closed?
No, actually, I actually put in for it. Nobody, I have not heard of anybody getting any equipment from the tech shops that closed.
Okay.
Even though I know like Payson from Cabrillo had put out a link. If you are interested in this, fill out the form, but I haven't heard of anybody
actually
getting any of that. We've been able to take some of our equipment out and work with different groups, but most of it is us coming in, having people come into our space. Over the summer, we did do some remote kinds of things in conjunction with Deanza, where we did like a microcontroller camp for a week. And so we just had a set of Arduinos and a set of Raspberry Pi that we took out to them.
Well, there's a boatload of money at K-12 this year. So maybe that's how they're utilizing it.
Yeah, maybe it is. But that's what we're hearing. I'm also hearing a lot from the schools where so the administration tries to start the makerspace or Fab Lab or Steam Lab or wherever they're calling it, and it's not going as well versus something that happens organically. So one of the things that we have done, and we just did a presentation last week for Saratoga Union School District about what kinds of things can that traditional English social studies teacher do in a makerspace with their students. And that went extraordinarily well because there's still this disconnect. There's a makerspace, but it's just for the people who teach in the makerspace. And to try to open that up, and that the makerspace is available for everyone and that it needs to be used by everyone.
Excellent.
Dave Elaine,
yes.
Also, when I was meeting with our school president, he wanted us to focus on not on just strong workforce money, but also on the basic skills money, the pathways money, because like you said, that's a very large pot of money. And he felt that obviously the makerspace is a excellent place for basic skills initiative.
It is.
And so as part of our future puzzle of funding, figuring out all the pieces of the puzzle, that would be one of the tangential pieces. Did you want to say something?
Kyle was talking about how the hours to get the badges were much lower than what we're looking at.
Yep.
That's because what we're developing are professional development badges to augment certificates and degrees.
Okay.
And we also in the badging, in addition to like professional development and our makerspace skills, they made a decision that skills badges cannot poach from more than one course. So, because I wanted the ability to say, if you took this class and this class, you could get a badge, but they don't want us to do that.
Yeah.
The badge has to be either the course or a part of a course that already exists, if it's coming, just so we don't conflict with curriculum.
Yeah.
So that was a cap they put on us, but our skills can also be independent of any class.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tristan, I agree with you. We have never gotten over the whole our classes are impacted at community college. And if anyone drives by our campus and sees that we have absolutely no parking spaces available, that just kind of reinforces to them that we have.
We've had several bus lines pulled from our area, and so everyone drives here now, except for the few people that take the one bus line and our one light rail.
Right.
Yeah, that almost has to be
everyone drives here with a carpool, and everything is full, so people think it's impacted.
It's not. It's so crazy.
They need to have some sort of a marketing initiative from the chancellor's office saying we're open for business,
but don't drive. Take a jump.
Cool.
It is a perception issue.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for the great conversation.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, we've learned a lot. And so I'm going to be sending out a survey after this for the participants who want to learn more about, you know, what you found really interesting and what you want to dig into more. And we can keep digging into this a little bit more. And then also, if you're interested in being a speaker in a future webinar, if you're doing cool stuff or have anything that you think is worth sharing, let us know, and we'll put together another webinar like this and kind of create a platform for you to share that. And then some of the contact info below for the speakers today is listed. You can.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks. Tom, are you still there?
Yeah.